All right, welcome again, everybody. This is Ted at Rediker Software with our webinar, which is a program overview of AdminPlus.com. So we're going to go through the whole program and visit just about every one of the major screens and let you have a look. Hopefully, this will help you to understand what is available to you and serve as kind of an orientation session. Certainly not a training session, of course. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go down the road here. So with that, let's go ahead and move on over to a browser window here, and let's get logged into adminplus.com. Now, I always mention this. When you go to the login screen, remember the release notes for each and every release. You got a handy link right there. So if you want to find out what's been added recently to the program, just go ahead and head on in there. Okay, so for today, the method that we're going to use is basically going to use this main left navigation menu. We're going to start at the top and work our way to the bottom. That way, if you're following along on another monitor, you'll know where we are. But also just to bring some organization, make sure we don't go flying around to too many screens. I'm going to start here on the daily attendance, even though it's not the first menu entry, which is the dashboard. I want to start on the daily attendance so that we can drive some of the dashboard items here that are not currently lit up. So heading over to daily attendance, first thing I'm going to do here really quick is make today an actual school day in my school by adding today as a school day. And then we can see immediately by doing that, I can see that I've already got 4 teachers on my nice teacher list. They have gone through and submitted their attendance to me from their grade book in the browser or the mobile app. And of course, all I need to do is go ahead and click the approve button to move that attendance data out of the individual grade books and on into here at adminplus.com so that I'll start to get my calendar lighting up. I'll start to get my student attendance data lighting up. I can immediately go into the process of changing data. So if this student who was marked absent a couple of minutes ago, all of a sudden comes in with a good looking note, maybe we're going to upgrade him to an excused tardy and make that attendance change. Many of our customers are now managing all of their daily and period attendance using adminplus.com because the experience is it's just superior versus using Classic. And of course, you've got your daily attendance bulletin, which is an excellent presentation of some of this data by grade level so that you can see all of the students who have attendance exceptions of some type, and some other useful data like the number of consecutive or cumulative absences or tardies for that particular student. And of course, this is customizable by you without knowing a lick of code. You don't have to know any code to go in here and make rudimentary changes to this. So for example, if you're only responsible for attendance in, the middle school, maybe grades 6, 7, and 8, go ahead and make that change and alter the presentation of the data so that you're not looking at a whole bunch of data that doesn't apply to you. And of course, the ability to email, print, and download is fairly straightforward. I definitely encourage every single customer to explore this, even if you're not editing in adminplus.com yet. Your attendance data from Classic is making its way up into this environment when you sync. So you can still go in here and take advantage of things like these new reports, your search lists and your counts, and the report that would find the number of students that are, have been absent more than X times in a particular time span, all available over in the reports, along with some higher end functions like batch entry. So if you have a whole cohort of students that are going to be absent on a field trip, you don't have to go one at a time and update them as long as they've got something in common. Maybe they're all in the same homeroom or they have some other criteria in common. You can easily batch update them. And you're also seeing the lunch count data coming in from the teachers' grade books at my a very prestigious make-believe school here. Yes, my teachers in the morning hold the class. They input what each student wants to have for lunch so that we can have that data easily available and we can send it down to the cafeteria so that they know what to get ready for that day. Now, right alongside the daily attendance, of course, is the period attendance. Looks like I've got one teacher only who has submitted for period C or block C here. I'm going to go ahead and take that on in as well so that you can see that for each and every class period, if you're one of those schools that manages attendance not only from a daily standpoint, but also from individual periods, then all of that can be managed here. And naturally, there's bulletins and reports, including the dreaded skip list. Well, dreaded for the students that might be on it, but very, very quickly, this ability to go into and find any student that that may have this combination where they were present in some cases, but then here we are with Cassie Carter absent in period C. So like what's up with that? Something maybe to be explored. Before I move more to the right, let me drop back to the dashboard now. It's one of the hottest features in AdminPlus.com. We get a lot of praise for this ability for you, the individual user, to tailor this set of up to 12 tiles that will display from a library of an unlimited number of tiles that you can create, and some graphical elements down here. I've had so many customers tell me I used to have to go in and run a report to find the list of all of the students that were failing, or had an average in one of their classes below some threshold. And now we can see a visual indication of how many of them there are. I've got the list of the students who have an average in the grade book. Okay, this is live. This is examining all of the individual teachers' grade books for all the teachers in my school, and I've basically instructed it using the grade search widget. Now, there's about 18 of these widgets, or 18 or 19 now. We're certainly not going to look at each and every one of them, but I have to encourage you to look at these widgets. I've had a number of customers that said, I used to have to do this thing. I used to have to go in and manually generate a report. Now I don't have to anymore. I set it up with the threshold that I want to work with. I'm going to boost that up to a 70 here. And the grade levels that you care about. And when you save that up, that will immediately update itself. So not only kids at academic risk, but how many of them have had more than a couple of discipline incidences within a certain time frame? How many are at attendance risk? Once again, defined by you, the individual user, having the ability to set these settings, these parameters, if you will. And in this case, I'm looking for all the students that have a percentage of attendance less than 94%. You have a lot of control here. Can bring a lot of important information that you might otherwise have gone running individual reports for, and now you can customize the dashboard to bring this information up on the screen. By the way, these are all drag and droppable so that you can truly tailor the presentation of the information. And without going into too much detail, again, you can have dozens and dozens and dozens of these tiles. Currently, you can have 12 of them displaying at the same time. And yeah, this is a per user experience. So your dashboard may look completely and utterly different than somebody else's. This is great. You've probably figured this out already, but we're on the school major left navigation. So all of the stuff that we're looking at here is more school-wide versus individual student or staff member. We're heading there shortly. Yeah, for grades, we're seeing some basic information. We're seeing tools that would allow us to batch erase data from the grades area, oftentimes just before schools do their actual report card run. They want to clear out any extraneous data that may be occupying. Let's say it's the third marking period, and you want to clear that third marking period data out that you may have brought in earlier and freshen it up and get ready to receive the grades from the teachers, which you can reach out and see which teachers have submitted their grades to you and which have not submitted their grades to you. And in my demo school, of course, that's most of the teachers. And you can go ahead and pull them on into the environment in preparation for verifying them and running report cards. And of course, when it comes to actually running report cards, of course, you can continue to do that in Classic, but we encourage everybody to go ahead and start taking a look at the report card report writer up here in adminplus.com. So right now, you've got this access to, I guess, what we would call a marking period type report card, your kind of typical high school report card, and also transcripts. And then, of course, very, very soon, we're expecting our first look at a skills or standards-based report card. Favorite thing about this is, once again, no code. You don't need to know our old classic tilde codes. You don't need to know HTML or CSS or anything like that to come in here and change things. You're working with an interface that allows you to easily see what's going on. Maybe upload your logo, decide how much student information you want to appear on the report card, how much information about the school you want to be on there. Many customers like to put their attendance data on the report card, their honor roll status if they have one, and maybe a message from the school. And then, of course, select information, academic information. These are typically like your report card columns, your marking period columns. You're going to bring all of that in and then make some other choices here. You can't hurt anything by trying this. You can't do any damage at all. So start going in and taking a look at what this will look like. You can preview it with some sample students and see what the program is coming up with. I'll tell you right now, it runs a whole lot quicker on this more modern, fully web-based, SQL database system than the classic program. And so we encourage you to start getting used to this as we move forward. So you can go through and check out the previews without doing any damage. Save your work, do a save as, save multiple iterations of it. Ultimately make decisions about, hey, when we run this batch of high school report cards, do I want AdminPlus to automatically make a PDF copy of each one and drop it into the student's portfolio? Yeah, usually, yeah. Do we want to email a copy home to the moms and the dads? I love the fact that you can put an internal note here, maybe with some special instructions or notes for anybody else that might use the report. And speaking of those that might use the report, go ahead and give them access. Make it easy for them to get to this report if you're creating it on behalf of other users. It's a lot easier to work with this new reporting environment. So please go ahead and take a look. Let's wrap up the school section by quickly looking at the schedule area, which once again features some batch processing capabilities for adding courses to schedules or editing sections. Of course, you'll have your master course list and master section list in here with the ability to add new courses or go in and edit the parameters of each and every single one of these courses, including the linked skills. You want to look at that. And you'll also want to manage your rooms can be done in here now. You're in adjusting the line schedule and the grid schedules. And then, of course, some intelligence here about some students that are unscheduled. These are students that have no schedule at all. It probably shouldn't be like that. So this can help you identify problem areas in the schedule and go deal with them. And on to discipline incidences. Once again, looks like, well, it's May, so I don't have any discipline incidences here, although it looks like one of them has been submitted here about Emily Edwards disrupting a class. Very handy for me. This was submitted by a teacher, so very easy for me to go ahead and take a look at that and then work it on into the system so that'll marry up. And now you can see that there's one discipline incident here for today. Once again, reports over here. So if you want to go and run a list of all the students that have been involved in discipline incidences over a certain time span, this is one of the areas that you can go to do such a thing. All right, let's move on down the left side here and get into the students area. So everybody here, of course, I assume everybody's using AdminPlus Classic, and so you're pretty familiar with all of these modules, except maybe this snapshot. This is something that is exclusive to adminplus.com. And again, over the last few years, we've gotten a lot of compliments about bringing so much information about a student onto a single screen. A couple of important things to know about these are these cogwheels that allow you, the individual user, to go in and tailor the data. Once again, you want to personalize this thing, customize it, if you will. And so, if you're more concerned about certain pockets of data or certain clusters of data, bring those onto the screen and get rid of the things that you don't care about so much. Make some decisions in here about, hey, what, for my attendance, I'm going to see these tallies. Do I want, what date do I want to start? Do I want to start from the beginning of school? Do I want to go up to today, or do I just want to set this to the last day of school? Go ahead and make those changes. And also, if you're using a computer that is visible or potentially visible to others that shouldn't be able to see this data, don't forget the eyeballs. The eyeballs are there to turn the privacy mode on so that if you need to step away from your desk for a second and there's some things that shouldn't be looked at, then you can just click those buttons. Or if you want to be even more cautious, then go ahead into the settings area here and have them turned on by default. So you don't have to worry about it. They'll just come up blanked out by default. And then when you want to expose the data, go ahead and click the eyeball to get them exposed. Okay, we're going to do a really quick blast through the tabs because I know all of you are familiar with them. You know about the 260 demographic database fields. They're all going to be in here. Attendance for this student, a variety of analytical views, the classic list view of the student's attendance, once again, with the ability to go ahead and edit this right here from the screen. So you're never more than a couple clicks away from being able to edit key data about a student. Over to the schedule, you'll have your classic line grid schedule and your line schedule. Since I have my editing turned on, I'm also able to go in and make some changes here. I could unschedule the student or change the section, boot them out of the class, etc. I could add them on using a couple of different techniques, even copying a schedule from one student right over to this student. So that if you have a new student that just joined the school and they're going to have the same schedule as all the other 8th graders have, then you don't have to individually schedule them. You can do that in about 4 or 5 mouse clicks to get that job done. Once again, emailable, printable. So have a look at that. I'm going to pop back to grades. So the course grades are here. Of course, these are the ones that typically come on in from the teacher's grade books each marking period and become statically entered. Of course, they are editable, but the idea here is that we bring them in from the teacher's grade book, and then they're stored here for historical value and for report card generation and transcripts, etc. You'll see the skills. If there are any skills associated with the course, you'll see them there. Narrative comments will be there, and even past grades. Of course, that would probably have to be on a record of somebody that is got some of that kind of data on their record. I think I might have some from Mary Keith. Yeah, you'll see. So, we've got last year and we've got the year before. So basically, we're looking at kind of their transcript data. And one thing I want to point out here, because it's a very, very powerful feature, is this ability to generate a live progress report for the student without leaving the adminplus.com environment. This is something that's exclusive here to adminplus.com. Of course, the fact that I can pull a combined progress report for Camille Adams, and the program will reach out to every single one of the grade books that this student is in and bring back their live grades to me. This is something that I could go ahead and download. We could print it out if we wanted to. Very powerful. Camille's discipline record. Very, very easy to go add a new discipline incident in here from this interface, or of course from the mobile app, or if a teacher had submitted a discipline incident from the Plus portals and we brought it in and approved it, it would show up in here so that we can monitor it. The new payments tab is huge, huge, especially for our private schools that want that ability to set up tuition payment plans, where parents commit to paying a certain dollars every month for their tuition, and they want to set it up for auto pay and walk away. And then every single month at the right time, the system goes out and extracts the money from their bank account, and all the records in here update automatically. This is definitely a hot new area here that Rediker is focusing on. Now you've got your contacts, of course, the moms, the dads, aunts, uncles, whoever. And again, in my case, since I have all the editing turned on to adminplus.com, I can get in here and I could make changes to the record, setting permissions for the portal, or specifying which of the reports this person should receive by default when they go out. Makes it very, very easy to have it all in this one interface. The portfolio is one of the most hottest features in the program. I'm still kind of surprised from time to time that there are some customers that don't use it, but basically a listing of computer files like medical records or contracts, legal documents, whatever, could be placed into the portfolio by clicking the add button and pointing to the file and uploading it. You can categorize it and set some visibility rights, but then it lives inside of this thing forever. Of course, even more powerful is having an online form. Yeah, an AdminPlus online form rigged so that parents or staff members or even students can attach files to them. And then when they submit the form and you receive the form, it places a copy into the portfolio so that when you need to see the thing, you don't have to walk to the file cabinet. Just click the eyeball and it'll come up almost immediately. It's certainly the most convenient way to reference computer files that you're storing on behalf of the students. And many of you are familiar with super database tables. You may use them at your school. Of course, you'd expect them to be here. They have a thousand purposes, from recording multiple instances of the same kind of data. In this case, nurses' office visits, or pretty standardized test score results, or pretty much any other type of data where you're expecting that there will be multiple instances of it over time, and not a single instance where we are more likely to use a demographic field. Now, this is the single student view, but the multiple students view brings up the classic list of all of the students in my school, which there are 410 of them. And then, of course, I can search for any one of them and bring that up very, very quickly. And we can take advantage of our views so that, if we need to bring specific pieces of information into view, in this case, the 286 students that ride on a bus or a carpool, it has filtered out all the blanks and it has presented the bus or carpool number right here. The views, tremendously, tremendously helpful. You can create as many of them as you want and navigate them here. Of course, you can always throw filters on as well. So if I want to say, hey, I just need a list of all those, all those kids that are in homeroom 112. No, just make it the girls. All the girls in homeroom 112. Just that quick, I was able to identify the 13 students out of my 410 that meet that criteria. And don't forget about the export button. A single click on that button, within about 10 seconds, usually, will take the data that's sitting here in front of me on the screen and deliver it basically to your desktop. So there it is. Just that quickly, we are able to extract that list out of the program, and we'll talk more about exporting data in a couple of minutes. Okay, same thing with contacts. Now we're looking at the list of all the contacts. And portfolio, we're looking at the list of all the portfolio documents, not one particular student's. Why would we ever do this? Well, again, maybe there's some need for filtering and finding all the documents of a particular type. Narrow them down so you can filter by them and see, for example, what's on file. Maybe you're supposed to have one of these records for every single 12th grader, and you got 20 12th graders, which means that you're about 16 documents short. It can be very helpful just to be able to know those types of things. All right, let's pop down to staff. We all know that for each staff member, we have a similar snapshot here. Of course, a little smaller because we don't keep quite as much information about staff members as we do for the students themselves or the contacts. But you've got the demographic information for them. You've got some of our customers track staff attendance in the program. Most of them will develop a schedule, and so they want to be able to see the teacher's schedule as well as the student's schedule. And yeah, every single staff member also has this portfolio where you can store copies of resumes or professional credentials or whatever you feel like storing in there, whatever's convenient for you. And of course, staff can also have super databases attached to them. Hey, let's move down to the enrollment button. Very, very popular way to preside over adding new students to the school. And there are primarily 4 different ways to do that. Number 1, for those of you lucky enough to be using Rediker's Admissions Plus program for taking online applications and managing all of the data and the workflow associated with getting a new prospective student into the system. Once they're actually ready to be enrolled, once they've gone through the process and they've, I don't know, submitted all their paperwork, signed any agreements, set up their payment plan, made a deposit, and now they are ready to be enrolled, the person using admissions will send them over to you. And you will see right here, I got 2 prospective students that are over in admissions, and the admissions department is sending them on over to me, the registrar, to do my part, which is to enroll them into school, which I can do by clicking approve. And all of that data that was gathered for them over in admissions, including the contact information and any computer files like copies of birth certificates and medical records, etc., all gathered up by our admissions department, will now seamlessly flow on over into AdminPlus, creating new records for them. Now, some of our customers use our registration forms when they already have a student in the school and the same family wants to basically add another one. You can use a specialized registration form that would allow the parent to fill in the information and then go ahead and pull that on in. And it can also be used for, in certain circumstances, for new student registration for those outside of the who are already enrolled in the school. But what about manually adding? Hey, there's a new 3rd grader. They just came into the office. They say they want to come to school. I don't want to take them through any big process. We agree to have them. And so we will just go manually add in a few pieces of information. And then we would go next and assign them to a household, either an existing one or a new one. We'd be prompted to add some additional demographic information, and then add them, and they would immediately get added to the roster, not to a classroom roster, but they'd basically get added to the list of enrolled students. And then, of course, from there, you could go ahead and assign them a schedule and move on. Same thing for staff. They can also be manually added in. And then for our customers who are unlucky enough to be using some third-party program to manage admissions, and it results in a collection of prospective students that are ready to be enrolled. Typically, they're output into a spreadsheet, and we've got, I've got 30 new students in it, and there's, 40 columns of data with their name and date of birth and gender and race and all this other stuff. I certainly don't want to have to go in and individually enter them into the database, so we can import them from a file. Point to the file, map the columns of data to the respective fields in the AdminPlus, and click go, and let it bulk upload those new students into the program. So that's the function of your enrollment tab. Now, moving down, the Approval Center is designed to give a consolidated view of these external areas where data would be coming into AdminPlus. Even from within the Rediker environment itself. And that throws some people off a little bit. They're like, well, why is it that, we need to receive the data from the teacher's grade books? Why doesn't it just, when they click submit, why doesn't it just go in? That's because of a long-standing tradition of customers who have said, no, I like it that I can lay eyes on it before approving it. So they want, if somebody submits an online form, they want to see that form data. They may even want to see, okay, well, this is what's currently in AdminPlus, but this is what they put on the form. That's a difference. And so before clicking the approve button and rolling that data from the outside into AdminPlus, they want to lay eyes on it before they go ahead and make that update. So pulling in information from an AdminPlus online form, pulling in admissions data. This is the same little graphic that was over on the enrollment tab. Plus portals, most of you know, parents, students can go in and alter their demographic data and submit the changes to you. And then this would light up and you would see that, oh, okay, I've got some changes here. What's going on? Laura Dow, that student, they're submitting a change in the hospital. We have Mercy on file, but they're putting Bay State in that form. So if I click the approve button, it'll make that change to that specific data field in AdminPlus. Course requests, those of you that do use our master schedule builder and allow students to open up a request form, on a course request form, and select the classes that they would like to take. Maybe working with their guidance counselor. That ability to pull that data into the program. Of course, there's nothing here now because I'm in the current school year. If I went to the scheduling year, well, at least we've got some course request data there in my scheduling year. But let me move back to my active year. We've already talked about attendance. We've already talked about receiving grades. We've already talked about receiving incidents. Yes, there is more than one place you can go to perform some functions. That's just because customers like to have options and they use what they prefer to use. Let's talk about the send button here, which is a specialized tool for sending broadcast emails. It features email templates that would allow you to pre-compose some content. Maybe every single week, maybe you put out a newsletter and you want to have a little cover paragraph and you want to put a link to it online, or perhaps even attach it or provide a link to it. I'm going to use my welcome back for the fall of 2026 template. Notice probably the most important thing here are these merge fields. That ability to take information from the demographic fields for the student, the demographic fields for the contacts, like for mom and dad, or some school data, phone numbers, websites. And you may say, well, why would we use a merge field for our phone number? Well, because phone numbers can change. If you've got 15 templates made and you're hard coding the phone number in the email, they're all wrong. But if you update the phone number in the school fields, then you never have to worry because it's calling that updated piece of information out of the database every time. You don't have to change a single template to make it still work. Even some of these other merge fields, that's this ability to put in pronouns and other pieces of information. So I've got one here that's meant to, welcome back some students for the fall. Let me move forward on this. I'll show you how it works really quick. Let's say it's my job to welcome back all of the students in the 8th grade. So I make my selections and look at there's plenty of ability here to be very selective in who you want to send these messages out to. In this case, I'm going to go to the household contacts, and just that quickly, I now have 51 emails customized, ready to be sent. And notice how they are personalized. So, Mrs. Norman Bernard, the year's coming up. Hey, Your child has locker number 179. This is their combination. This is their homeroom. This is their advisor. For the next one, different information. For the next one, different information. So for each one of those, there'll be a customized email, and we can send that out now, or we could put it on a slight delay of up to about 4 days into the future. And these will go out very, very, very quickly. Again, the technology that we use to deliver these types of emails is superior to the technology that we were using in the older classic software. So definitely encourage everybody to go in and take a look at this new tool. Let's move down to the exports button. A little earlier, we had a list on the screen. We wanted it exported and brought into Excel, so we did it. Or we can do the same thing here. You can output your master course list. You can put out the scheduling rotation. I'm certainly not going to click on, every single one of these. Over on the student tab, look, you've got access to, again, all 260 plus a few system fields, I think, on the list that we can take and selectively bring that data over onto the screen. So if you want to, go ahead and put the student's name on there and their unique ID, and put the race field on there and their grade level, go ahead and put it on there, and then pick your filters here, and then just go ahead and click the download button and count to about 10. You should have that file. In this case, it would be, well, for all of my active and inactive students in my whole school would just come tumbling out of the program. Those could be saved, by the way, as tasks. So if this is something you do on a regular basis, you create this template, you click the save button, give it a name, and come back to it again in the future. Many, many other useful exports here. I kind of like to show off the student schedule one, because some of you have a need to take your rostering data and share it with other programs and upload it to other programs. Of course, some of you have contacted us and made arrangements to automate the sending of roster data from AdminPlus up to other programs. But in this case, if we wanted to manually do that, there it was. In about 10 seconds, I just downloaded complete scheduling information for these students. This is about 4,000 rows of scheduling data, where for each individual student, we have pretty much everything you need to share. The name and the unique ID of the student, the course and section number, the name of the teacher and their unique ID, when it's going to happen, how long it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. Just like that, all of this data comes tumbling out on demand. And as I always say, we always consider this data to be your data, not our data. And so we're happy to make it easy for you to take this information and bring it on out of the program at will. Let's wrap up by looking at these two relatively newer buttons, the Setup Center and the Users. So the Setup Center is developing into that place where you are going to administer AdminPlus. Okay, this will be where typically your supervisor user or somebody at a high level is going to make decisions about what attendance codes are we going to use in our program. Do we need to distinguish between a half-day absence and a full-day absence? Do I want to have something that I would put on when the students go off on a field trip, letting them know that they're absent, but it's an excused absence? If they're going out to an athletic event, do I want to have a code for that so that we can be very granular and very accurate in our attendance entries? So go in here and basically administer by adding or altering attendance codes. And that's just one of the libraries that you'll see here. Naturally, I'm not going to click on every single one of them. You can do this anytime that you want to, and we hope that you do. Start taking a look around. It's like, yeah, we want to manage the list of relationships that the contacts have to the students. This is where you would go ahead and manage those types of things. Let's go ahead and look at the settings very quickly. This is related settings and libraries. They're similar, but a little bit different. In this case, let's say that we wanted to modify the way that the names of the students appear. Do we want first name, last name? Do we want last name, middle, first name? You can go ahead and make your choices from these lists to tailor the way that data shows up in the program. Lastly, let's take a look at this users area. This will be developing very, very quickly between now and the July timeframe. You're going to see a lot of work going into this. You're going to see not only this area where, well, in this case, we're looking at super database permissions. I'm very limited here because I'm not logged in as a supervisor user. If you don't mind, let me just change users here for a second and go back over to the users area. We'll see a little bit more now, including the list of all my AdminPlus users, got their email, their access level, when they last logged in, etc. But we can move down through many of these other views showing things like, okay, well, which of these users has access to the grades? Which users can go in and change discipline information? Which users can only look at billing information? Which users are excluded entirely from looking at report card data, for example? For current year, past year, we can set portfolio permissions. We can set access permissions. When I say set, I'm so sorry. For the moment, it's viewing. That's been our history here. We give you the viewing ability first, and then in a subsequent release, we give you the editing capability. So be on the lookout for much more coming here to this grid, which is going to be very, very powerful, and in my opinion, a much easier way for you to administer your users' rights and privileges and access. Now, just before we wrap up, I've mentioned the RUL, the Rediker Unified Login. That's this little guy here that makes it possible for you to jump from this program, AdminPlus, over to, in this case, the online forms manager without requiring another login. Well, what's dropping very, very, very shortly are 3 additional buttons up here. You're going to see the teacher gradebook, the teacher gradebook management console, and the plus portals as well. So if you're a user and you have rights to those other programs, you will no longer need to open up another tab and put in a username and a password to get logged in. We're simplifying things for you. And this, of course, has been something that has been requested for quite a long time. All right, as we get wrapped up here, let me tell you about news item number 2 is that there is still time for you to grab yourself a $25 gift card for taking a few moments and hopefully saying something nice about Rediker's AdminPlus. This is g2.com. It's one of the most important software review sites in the world. And if you would be kind enough to go to this site, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we put a link in here in the Q&A section before we're done that you can just go ahead and click on and get to this website. We would certainly appreciate it. I also want you to know about the opportunities you have here to get more information, even professional consulting and training on the program. Yeah, some of you are DIY and you'll go after the user guides and the release notes, but others prefer guided help with experts. And we have lots of experts capable of helping you with every single aspect of your system, whether it's integrating with other systems, touching up your website if you have one of ours, master schedule building, even personalized training in any aspect at all. There's a lot of different ways to get this help. We've got online courses right here on our website. You'll see them here. Go ahead and check the dates out, check the content out. Extremely affordable way to get trained up in the use of the program. We've got these incredibly experienced people, some of them that have been here for 20 years, and they are at your service. And all you need to do to make a connection there is get a hold of one of these guys. Which, of course, these are your account managers. Just let them know that you're looking for some help. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for attending. I hope it was beneficial, and we'll see you on another webinar very, very shortly. Thanks. Bye-bye.